Your favorite childhood movie is a lie. Disney copied the same dancing bear into 3 different films. Snow White's dance, stolen and redrawn for Robin Hood. Beauty and the Beast's iconic ballroom scene, traced from a movie made 32 years earlier. One director did this for decades. Nobody noticed until 2015. But the reason why will shock you even more than the secret itself. Let's start with the most obvious one. 1973's Robin Hood. Watch closely during the song "The Phony King of England." Maid Marian lifts her dress and starts dancing with the forest animals. Now, look at this scene from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs from 1937. Snow White lifts her dress. She dances with Dopey and Sneezy during the silly song. The movements match perfectly. The steps, the twirls, even the way she claps her hands. Disney traced Snow White's animation and drew Maid Marian over it. 36 years later, the animator who created that original Snow White dance was Les Clark, one of Disney's 9 old men. Les spent weeks animating that dance scene in 1937. When it was traced decades later, he couldn't say anything. The decision came from the top. Remember Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh? In the 1966 short Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, there's a scene where Christopher Robin walks through the 100-acre wood. He climbs some rocks, picks up a stick, throws stones into the water. Now watch The Jungle Book from 1967. Mowgli does the exact same thing. Every footstep, every arm movement, every head turn. These films were made at the same time. The animators were working on both projects simultaneously. They took the walking animation they created and used it for both boys. Same movements, different characters, frame by frame. And here's where it gets wild. Robin Hood borrowed from at least 4 different films. Some scenes appear 3 times throughout the same movie using the same recycled animation. But why? Why would Disney, the biggest animation studio in the world, need to recycle their own work? The answer involves one man, a legendary director who worked on almost every Disney movie from the 1960s and 1970s. His name was Wolfgang Reitherman, but everyone called him Woolie. Woolie Reitherman was one of Disney's 9 old men, the core group of animators who created the classic Disney style. He started at Disney in 1933 and worked on Snow White, Pinocchio, and Fantasia. Woolie animated the charging dinosaur in Fantasia's Rite of Spring and Monstro, the whale-swallowing Pinocchio. He was brilliant at action sequences, crashes, chases, explosions. By the 1960s, Woolie became a director. Between 1961 and 1977, he directed or co-directed 8 Disney animated films. That's more than any other Disney director in history, and 7 of those 8 contain recycled animation. The Sword in the Stone, The Jungle Book, The Aristocats, Robin Hood, Winnie the Pooh, 101 Dalmatians. Check the credits. Woolie Reitherman directed them all. Floyd Norman worked with Woolie on many of these films. Floyd is now a Disney legend. He started at Disney in 1956 and created the hypnosis scene in The Jungle Book, where Kaa hypnotizes Mowgli. It's actually harder and takes longer to redraw an existing sequence. Floyd said, "It's faster and easier to just do new animation." But Woolie liked to play it safe and use stuff he knew would work. That's all it was. Wait, it took more time to recycle animation, not less? Yes, you have to find the old animation, pull it out of storage, project it, trace over it frame by frame, then change all the details to match the new characters and background. Animator Milt Kahl was considered the best draftsman at Disney. He animated the Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood. When his walk cycle got reused multiple times in the same film, Milt was furious. Seeing his work copied felt like an insult. So, if it wasn't about saving time, what was it about? The answer has everything to do with what happened at Disney after Walt Disney died in 1966. When Walt Disney died in 1966, the company nearly shut down their animation department completely. Disney's live-action movies were making more money, the theme parks were making more money, but the animated films, they were expensive to make, and they weren't bringing in enough profit. The Jungle Book, released in 1967, cost about $4 million to make. It did well at the box office. But The Aristocats in 1970 cost more and made less profit than expected. The studio executives were worried. The company's new leaders, Card Walker and Don Tatum, wanted to close the animation studio for good. They looked at the numbers. Animation took 4 years to make one movie. Live-action films took months. The math didn't make sense to them. The animators fought back. They argued that animation was the heart of Disney. It's what made Disney special. It's what Walt built the company on. Without animation, Disney was just another movie studio. Walker and Tatum agreed to keep the animation department open, but there was a catch. They slashed the budgets, massively. Robin Hood was made for only $5 million. That might sound like a lot, but consider this. Walt Disney spent $3 million making Pinocchio back in 1940. 33 years later, $5 million wasn't much more when you account for inflation. The budget was tight, too tight. The animators had less money, less time, smaller teams, and they still had to deliver a full-length theatrical movie that looked like classic Disney. Ken Anderson, the production designer on Robin Hood, pitched the film in 1968. He wanted to make it special. He designed elaborate sets, multiple locations. Large crowd scenes with dozens of characters. The Sherwood Forest Festival scene alone had over 30 different animal characters dancing and celebrating. But when production actually started in 1971, Anderson discovered the budget couldn't support his vision. The team was too small, the timeline was too short. That's when Woolie Reitherman made his decision. He would reuse what already worked. Dance sequences that took weeks to animate, use them again. Character designs that audiences loved, trace them. Robin Hood's production fell so far behind schedule that recycling wasn't just a choice. It became necessary just to finish the movie on time. They had to deliver the film by November 1973. No extensions, no delays. Act 4, the biggest examples. Let's break down the most recycled movie in Disney history, Robin Hood. Example 1, Baloo becomes Little John. Little John is basically Baloo, the bear, with different colors. Same body shape, same facial design, same personality. Even the way he scratches his back is identical. Why? Phil Harris voiced both characters. Harris was a famous comedian with a distinctive, raspy voice. Disney loved him so much, they cast him in 3 films: Baloo in The Jungle Book, Thomas O'Malley in The Aristocats, and Little John in Robin Hood. The animators just pulled out Baloo's character model sheets and traced them. They changed his color from brown to gray, added a hat, changed his outfit. Everything else stayed the same. Watch Little John dance during The Phony King of England. Then watch Baloo dance during I Wanna Be Like You. It's identical. The same scratching motions, the same head movements, the same shoulder shrugs. Even the way he snaps his fingers matches exactly. Over 200 frames copied. Example 2, The Aristocats Band. During that same song, watch the band playing instruments. A rabbit on guitar, a dog on trumpet, a rooster on drums. Now look at The Aristocats from 1970. During Everybody Wants to Be a Cat, there's a band of cats playing the exact same way. The rooster drummer in Robin Hood moves exactly like Scat Cat Shoon Gone in The Aristocats. The same cymbal crashes, the same stick twirls, the same head bobs. Musical sequences are the hardest scenes to animate because the movements must match the music perfectly. Every beat, every note. Example 3, Maid Marian's dance with Robin. As we saw in the beginning, Maid Marian's dance with the forest animals comes from Snow White. But she also dances with Robin Hood himself during the same scene. That comes from The Aristocats. The dance between Duchess and Thomas O'Malley was traced and turned into Robin and Marian's dance. Watch them dip and spin together. It's identical. One song, 3 different movies recycled from 1937, 1967, and 1970. Example 4, The Sheriff's Walk. The Sheriff of Nottingham walks through the town multiple times. That same walk cycle appears at least 5 times throughout the movie against different backgrounds. This made animator Milt Kahl angry. He animated that walk once, but the production team reused it over and over to save time. And Robin Hood isn't even the only movie that did this. Remember those other films we mentioned? Let's look at them now. The Jungle Book borrowed animation too. Those cute wolf puppies playing with Mowgli, Disney traced them from the Dalmatian puppies in 101 Dalmatians from 1961. And those dogs running around in The Sword in the Stone from 1963? The animators traced them and turned them into full-grown wolves in The Jungle Book. Even the deer running in The Jungle Book came from Bambi. Same graceful leaps, same head turns. When Maleficent gets angry and her goons run to hide from her, watch their movements. They're running and ducking in panic. That entire sequence was traced from Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. When the dwarfs think there's a monster in their cottage and they all hide, same animation, different characters. This one shocked everyone when people found out. Beauty and the Beast came out in 1991. It was the first animated film ever nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. It had a big budget. New technology, computer animation for the ballroom. But the final scene, when Belle and the prince dance at the end after the curse is broken? That's traced from Sleeping Beauty, the dance between Princess Aurora and Prince Philip from 1959. The directors Kirk Wise and Gary Trousdale admitted it during the DVD commentary. They were running out of time. The movie had to be finished, so they followed Woolie Reitherman's example. They took the Sleeping Beauty dance, cleaned it up, and drew Belle and the prince over it. Same movements, same camera angles, even the same kiss at the end. 32 years apart, same dance. So Disney recycled animation for decades, from 1937 all the way to 1991. But here's the question everyone asks: were the animators being lazy? Floyd Norman, the Disney legend we mentioned earlier, wants you to know something. The animators weren't lazy. It's a lot more fun for the animators to do new animation, Floyd explained. Nobody wants to trace old footage. That's boring work. Think about what the process actually involved. First, find the old animation in the archives. This was before computers. Everything was on film reels and paper. You had to dig through thousands of drawings stored in huge filing cabinets. Second, set up a projection system to show the old animation. Third, trace over every single frame by hand, not photocopy. Hand trace. Then adjust every detail. Change the character's features. Change the clothing. Change the background. Make sure everything matches the new movie's style. Fourth, clean it all up and ink it. One animator named Milt Kahl worked on Robin Hood. He animated the Sheriff of Nottingham. When his animation got reused multiple times in the same movie, he was not happy about it. But they didn't have a choice. The budget was tiny, the deadline was tight. Woolie Reitherman wanted to use what he knew worked. It wasn't about being lazy, it was about survival. Remember how we said Robin Hood had the lowest budget? Well, guess what happened when the movie came out? Robin Hood was released on November 8, 1973. Critics gave it mixed reviews. Some loved it, some thought it was just okay. But audiences, they loved it. Robin Hood made $33 million worldwide. With a $5 million budget, that's a massive profit. It became the highest-grossing Disney animated film up to that point. The movie that recycled the most animation became one of Disney's biggest hits. For decades, most people didn't notice. Kids who grew up watching Robin Hood had no idea Little John was basically Baloo. They didn't know Maid Marian's dance came from Snow White. It wasn't until the internet age, around 2015, that people started making comparison videos, side-by-side footage showing the recycled scenes. When these videos went viral, people were shocked. "My childhood was a lie," they said. Millions of views, millions of shocked fans discovering Disney's secret after 40 years. But was Disney trying to trick anyone? No, they were trying to survive. Let's look at some smaller examples you might have missed. Cinderella and 101 Dalmatians. In Cinderella from 1950, the evil cat Lucifer gets scared by the dog Bruno. He leaps high in the air with his paws spread wide. His eyes go huge. In 101 Dalmatians from 1961, Sergeant Tibbs the cat jumps the exact same way when Jasper throws darts at him. Same jump, same arc, same expression. The same cat jump used 11 years apart. The Sword in the Stone. This movie from 1963 has a jousting scene at the end. Two knights crash into each other during a tournament. That entire sequence was copied from an old Disney short called The Truth About Mother Goose from 1957. The horses, the lances, the crash, all traced. The Sword in the Stone recycled from many films. The squirrel chase scene used animation from Bambi. The wolf pack borrowed from 101 Dalmatians. Some scenes came from Goliath, two from 1960. Production designer Bill Peet quit Disney because he disagreed with how much animation was being recycled. In 1999, Disney made a sequel to Fantasia. During the Pomp and Circumstance segment, Donald Duck helps Noah load animals onto the ark. Look closely at those animals. The zebras, the giraffes, the elephants. They're traced from The Lion King from 1994, specifically from I Just Can't Wait to Be King. Disney animators defended this one. They said it was an intentional homage. Alice in Wonderland in Bambi. A bluebird in Bambi during the springtime scene lands on a branch near the water. That exact same bird, with the exact same animation, appears in Alice in Wonderland during A World of My Own. Same flight pattern, same landing, same wing flutter. The Rescuers and The Jungle Book. In The Rescuers from 1977, a little girl named Penny walks through a swamp carefully. That walk cycle comes from Mowgli in The Jungle Book. Same careful stepping, same head movements. They just changed the character from a boy to a girl, and the setting from jungle to swamp. So we've seen how Disney recycled animation in dozens of films. But did other animation studios do this too? Act 9, the bigger picture. Yes, every animation studio recycled footage. Hanna-Barbera, the studio that made the Flintstones and Scooby-Doo, used the same running cycles in every show. Watch Fred Flintstone run, then watch Scooby run. Same leg movements. Same background loops. Warner Brothers reused animation in their Looney Tunes shorts. Even modern shows do it. South Park reuses animation constantly. Family Guy does too. Anime series reuse frames all the time. It's called banking animation. The difference? Disney was so good at it that people didn't notice for 40 years. And here's something important. When Disney recycled animation, they didn't just copy and paste. They traced it by hand. They adjusted it. They made it fit the new story. That's still art. That's still work. Act 10, the legacy. Today, computer animation has changed everything. Pixar films don't recycle animation. They can save character models and reuse those, but every movement is newly animated. But those old Disney films, they're still loved. Robin Hood is a cult classic. It inspired the movie Zootopia. It helped create the furry fandom community. Beauty and the Beast won awards despite its recycled final dance. The Jungle Book is considered one of the best Disney films ever made. Because recycling animation didn't make these movies bad. The stories were still good. The characters were still memorable. The music was still catchy. Kids didn't care that Little John and Baloo moved the same way. They cared that Little John was funny and loyal and brave. Adults didn't notice that Belle's dance came from Sleeping Beauty. They cared that Belle and the Beast fell in love. So, what have we learned today? Disney recycled animation in dozens of films from 1937 to the 1990s. Robin Hood was the biggest example, borrowing from at least 4 other movies. Wolfgang Reitherman directed most of these films. He reused animation not because he was lazy, but because budgets were tiny and deadlines were tight. The animators actually worked harder to trace old footage than they would have drawing new scenes, but it gave Woolie the safety of knowing the animation would work. And the biggest surprise? The movies were still successful. Robin Hood became a huge hit. Beauty and the Beast made history. Disney's biggest secret was hiding in plain sight. In every dance, every walk cycle, every character movement. Millions of people watched these movies growing up, and they never knew they were watching the same animation over and over again. Until now. The next time you watch a classic Disney movie, look closely. You might see Snow White dancing as Maid Marian, or Baloo moving like Little John, or Mowgli walking like Christopher Robin. It's all there, waiting for you to discover. And that's the story of every time Disney reused a character model.